Welcome back. In this lecture, we are going to understand about Terraform block. So this block can be called in three ways. All means the same. We can call it as Terraform block or Terraform settings block or Terraform configuration block. So this block is the fundamental block we need to define when we are working on the Terraform. So from 0.13 onwards, this was introduced, and we should ensure that this is our first step for our Terraform configuration or whatever the things we are building. The first things we need to focus on is the Terraform block. So with that said, each Terraform block can contain a number of settings related to the Terraform behavior. And another important thing about this Terraform block is within a Terraform block, only constant values can be used. So arguments may not refer to named objects such as resources, input variables, and may not use any of the Terraform language built-in functions. In simple terms, you need to write the value of your respective argument there, but you cannot refer any variables or you cannot use any built-in functions of Terraform inside this block. With that said, this block was introduced from Terraform 0.13 and then later. So in Terraform 0.12 and earlier, so when we configure the provider, it used to be like this. In the provider block, we used to provide the version of our provider like this. But now from Terraform 0.13 and later, there is a new block introduced which is called Terraform. So inside that you will define the required providers block will be there. Inside that you can define your providers as AWS or Azure or whatever the provider you have. You are going to define the provider and its source location from the Terraform registry. So with that said, it's a mandatory block for us to be used as the first thing when we are learning the Terraform. Next thing here is, so what it contains on a very high level. So Terraform block contains the first thing is required Terraform version. So this configuration, whatever you define inside this Terraform block, it tells that whatever the other resources you define and all those things, it tells whenever you run the Terraform init and then whenever you run the Terraform plan and then apply things. So it will first check your local CLI version is matching with this required version whatever you have put. So if our local CLI version is not in line with the version whatever you have specified in your Terraform required version area, then automatically it is going to throw the error. So why does this type of information is required in the Terraform block? Because Terraform is a highly evolving and then very important language today, where like lot of changes are coming on daily basis and new sections are introduced into Terraform on a regular basis. So if you don't lock your versions to if you can't lock your current configurations to specific versions, so what happens is in the production there is a chances of breakage. So that's the reason the first things they provide is with Terraform version itself, they are providing the lock here. So every time whenever you are running the Terraform init and then Terraform plan and then Terraform apply, it will check for whether your local CLI whatever you are using is in match with the configuration files whatever you have built with that respective version. So today you are using 0.14 and using this you have built all your resource configurations of EC2 instance or ALB or whatever it is, okay? And in future 0.18 came into the picture. So at that point of time, right, and automatically your local CLI got upgraded to 0.18. And then when you run it, the whole thing is going to break in your production because unknowingly you break everything if you don't have this version lock. So that's the reason Terraform on a safe side basis provided the CLI lock, which is nothing but the required version for your respective configuration files, which in turn will check with your local CLI. If both matches, then only it can take it to the next level. In the same way, for provider requirements also, it will provide. First thing what it says is what all providers are required whenever we define inside this Terraform block, and whenever we execute the Terraform init, automatically all these providers will be downloaded during the init command, whatever you define the providers here. So those required providers, and also you can define the version of the provider also you are using as on today whenever you are building this configuration. And in future you want to do a upgrade, so you can run it as a separate project instead of not touching your core existing configuration, which is version locked to respective provider, right? In the same line, there will be one more setting, which is nothing but backend. So we have seen required version, required providers, and now we are seeing the backend. Okay, so the backend is nothing but Terraform has something called storing the state information of our configuration. Okay, so we will see about this in super detail when we are in the section of Terraform resources, and in this respective syntax and behavior we are going to also look into state in a detailed manner. Okay, so what is the state, and then how we are going to understand more about it, and in super detail about what is remote state and then what are Terraform state commands and all those things we'll see at the section 7. But on a very high level, so to store the state information of our configuration, we can use the remote backend. Okay, so that backend configuration, okay, is stored here, means like the backend configuration information is stored in the Terraform block. So the Terraform block importance is primarily with three things. One is required version of your CLI and required providers list you provide here, AWS, Azure or whatever it is, and their source and their version. And another one is the remote backend for storing the Terraform state in respective location. So if you want to store your remote if you want to store your Terraform configuration state storage in S3, so this is the configuration, AWS S3 bucket. If it is something else, so that related configuration information you will be adding here. So your configuration state storage will be stored in this respective S3 bucket. With that said, these three are the important things, and remaining two, whatever it shows here, experimental language features and passing metadata to providers. So these are advanced features. This is an experimental feature not required for us, and passing metadata to providers. So whatever Terraform says it is a super advanced thing, you really don't need to worry about it as on today. So with that said, our core interest of Terraform block is going to be required Terraform version, provider requirements, and then Terraform backend. Okay, so all these three primarily in this section we are going to look into Terraform version, required Terraform version, and then provider requirements. And when we reach the section 7, okay, so which is Terraform remote state storage, so with backend S3 bucket and also with S3 bucket with DynamoDB for state locking, we are looking to this concept of Terraform block at that point. But now we will play with this required Terraform version and then provider requirements in this section. And in addition to that, we are also going to look into version constraints concept. Okay, so which is nothing but tilde and then greater than what it will do, equal to greater than what it will do, equal to means like the values whatever you put here, operators, based on that how the versioning information will be handled in Terraform. We are also going to look into the version constraints concept for required Terraform version and then provider requirements for provider versions also, and then close this section. This completes the introductory part of Terraform block. So let's go back to our GitHub repo and also see on a high level what we are going to do. So we are in Stack Simplify HashiCorp certified Terraform associate, and we are in the Terraform fundamental blocks, and inside that we are in 0301 Terraform block. So here we are going to, as part of the introduction, we understood the Terraform block and its importance, and also understood how we are going to handle version constraints. We are going to do it in our later steps from step 3. And we have looked into what is Terraform version, provider requirements, and then their source and then version information, and Terraform backends. So now we are going to also review the sample Terraform settings TF. Whatever we have seen in the screenshot, the same thing we are going to see here. Okay, so you can see required Terraform version is defined here, and then required providers are defined here. In the same way, if you want one more provider to be defined, so you can define one more provider. Okay, so it is some custom provider like custom one example. It's your own provider. Okay, and it is located in some example like HTTP something. Okay, so wherever you want, or you already uploaded this to Terraform registry only. So something like HashiCorp plus custom one or whatever it is, and then its version. Okay, so 3.21 or 3.22, whatever. If you want to define more number of providers, you can define them. Example, we can even see like a random provider. There is something called, and you can go ahead and then verify random provider. Okay, so you can go here and then define your random provider, whatever is required for you. So it will take you to the latest documentation of this random provider, and if you go to the overview, you will find the random provider installs and then how it is published and all those things. So you can go here and then check the random provider information and then add it here. So when you click on this use provider, you will find its equivalent information here. So you just need to copy here and then put it here. So now your random provider is with you, means like the latest version of random provider you are using now. So which means whenever you say Terraform in it, in addition to HashiCorp AWS related provider, it also going to download the HashiCorp random provider. Okay, so that's about the Terraform block on a very high level. So we'll see in a step-by-step manner in our next steps in a detailed way. I'll see you in the next lecture. Until then, bye bye. Thank you.